happy to be joined by Johnny Three Tears. Johnny, you're in Oklahoma. Can you tell me a bit about the facility that you're stood next to there, mate?
Yeah, this is it's a 11,000 square foot cannabis grow facility that we got going on. So we're growing weed out here in the boondocks. So my reception's a little bad.
Tell me a bit about your cannabis strains and the rest of it. Like, what kind of things are you growing out there?
Oh, well, at this facility, this is our third facility. This one, we have about 18 strains. We only have the mothers up right now, so we haven't started harvesting yet because this is brand new. It's still under construction, as you can see. So we'll have a bunch of, we're going to put out about 100 pounds every 2 weeks. So this is a big facility. Yeah, it's 11,000 square feet. We have another one in downtown Oklahoma City. So yeah, that's why quarantine hasn't really done much for me, because I sit in these warehouses all day anyway, growing plants. So I still talk to them. They're my best friends.
I like the very literal hands-on approach that you've got to this, Johnny. It speaks volumes about your work ethic, mate.
I was just, when you called, I was on the floor drilling into a metal table, the racks for the plants. So we don't hire people to do it. We do it ourselves, bro. Hands on.
Is that the Hollywood Undead way? Have you always been that way about your art and your imagery and all the rest of it? Does that speak volumes about how you run your ship?
Yeah, we've always kind of wanted control over everything. It's funny because me and Jay, who's out here with me from the band, he's my partner in all this stuff. We were talking about how we should have listened to the label more often. We probably, because we were so set in our ways, and labels, they know what they're doing a lot of the time. To be honest, they're the ones who built this whole industry. So they would tell us, hey, we want stuff like this, or maybe you should do this. We'd be like, no, that's not true to the band. And I was like, man, we probably wouldn't have to grow all this weed if we just listened to the fucking label.
So we were chatting before we started recording, and we were talking about how crazy it is that there's been 15 years of Hollywood Undead. Mm-hmm. Now, I guess I'll reveal it on your behalf. You're re-recording one of those records. So what is it that you're re-recording, man?
Well, we're taking 6 songs off our first record, Swan Songs, and 6 songs off American Tragedy, and completely redoing them, re-recording them from top to bottom, because, production has improved so much, and everybody in the band has improved so much over the course of the past 15 years that, and we finally own the masters. The label doesn't own the masters to those records.
Right.
Anymore, so we're allowed to re-record them. So we were going to do both full records, but we're like, dude, that's just too much. That's 30 songs, 40 songs. So we're like, let's just pick our favorites off both. So we're re-recording them, redoing them with this guy, Matt Good, who did our last album. He's a producer. And we just want to elevate the songs and kind of do them justice that we think we could do to them today that we couldn't have at that time.
Yeah, I was reading an interview with you recently where you described your music as industrial hip-hop, and with it being based around technological advances and what technological advances, and even the way we consume music with the quality of headphones that people usually listen to in now, it's kind of imperative that you can update, and it definitely will give those songs a new flavor, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dude, just sonically, everything has changed so much that, I love my parent. I listen to a lot of like Creedence Clearwater Revival and Old Zeppelin and stuff, and you listen to it, and obviously John Fogerty's like my favorite songwriter. So I listen to him, I'm like, man, if he would, obviously those guys are old school, they're not going to redo shit. But if they did, I just wonder what it could sound like today. A lot of people like that old sound because it was tracked on actual tape and stuff like that. So, but there's so much stuff you can work on that you couldn't work on at the time, and everybody's kind of improved, in their own manner. So, I just want to see what it sounds like today. And a lot of people like that nostalgic vibe that records have, but I don't. I want to see it. You can always listen to it and be like, oh, that's cool that it sounded like that, I guess. But I just want to see what like Undead and those songs that we did back then would sound like with a modern twist, and see what we can do with it.
In terms of your songs and your songwriting and the band overall, when we talk about it being 15 years, if someone's version of Hollywood Undead, or the last time that they checked in with Hollywood Undead was those kind of undead days, what would you say about the growth of the band, both in terms of songwriting and just the whole nine yards when it comes to Hollywood Undead?
No, I feel you. I mean, we still get a lot of fans that are like, they're always asking, and it's not a lot of them, but they're like, oh, I should write another record like Swan Songs or another record like American Tragedy. And the thing is, it's funny because when you hear that, you go, okay, I get where you're coming from. But if you really did write the same record over and over again, those same people would be like, why is this not different than this other record? So it's like, it's really hard to please everybody in that sense where they're like, okay, you're changing too much, you're not changing enough, or whatever. So for us, the first thing we do is I don't pay any attention to fans. I don't mean that in an offensive way, but if we, it's like the last thing on my mind, because if we write music we don't like, then we're not going to be a band for very long. So the only people we really try to please are the guys in the band. And if everybody's happy with the record, we put it out and let the chips fall where they may. If you start getting into what fans want and this stuff, it's impossible. All of my want a different thing than the others. So I don't really get caught up in that game. As long as I like it, I like it. If records don't do well, okay, I'll quit and read. It's not the end of the world. Of course, everybody wants their fans to be happy, but honestly, that's a fool's errand. You're never going to make all your fans happy. There's always going to be somebody saying this sucks. And then there's a lot of people who love the advancements and the changes, and you want to utilize everything at your fingertips that you can. If you're better at something, you want to maximize that. You don't want to just, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of evolution that goes into records, and we just want to write music that we like. And if we like it, you stand a much better chance of someone else liking it than if you're like just trying to write to make some doofus happy.
Agreed. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Reputation, because I've got mates that are in bands that I wanted to talk to you basically a little bit about meme culture, because I'm mates with Zoltan from Five Finger Death Punch and Ivan, and I'm mates with David from Disturbed. So I've got friends that have kind of, I wouldn't say fallen victim to, because it's a double-edged sword, meme culture. But Hollywood Undead are a band that I also in that bracket. How has meme culture altered the public perception of Hollywood Undead, or has it?
I mean, I don't, dude, honestly, I pay such a small amount of attention to what goes on the internet. I usually, I'll go to Pornhub here and there, and that's about it. I'm just kidding. You're not. We all do. I'm just saying I'm kidding. So if my wife watches this, of course I do. More than once a day. No, I'm just kidding. I don't pay attention to that shit. I used to get geared up and I'd go on Instagram or or even just breaking down, even reading the news outside of meme culture. And I found that the more time I spent on the internet, the less happy I was and the less fulfilled I was. I think, there's two things that happen from it. You either get misinformed or you're overinformed. And then with meme culture and all these things, you start getting caught up in what other people think or what other people are doing. Especially with young people, it causes a lot of feelings of insufficiency where, these people are doing this and I'm not, and I'm a loser. And I think I've yet to see one good thing come out of all this shit. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. I think the internet's existence in general is great because you have a free flow of information. You don't have to go to a third party source to get it. Outside of that, dude, the internet it's not something I mess with. It's a big black vortex and there's nothing in there but misery.
It's a refreshing take, Johnny, I'll be honest, man. Something I wanted to talk about when it comes to Hollywood Undead and their romance with heavy music and alternative culture. Because something I love about your band, Johnny, is when you're an industrial hip hop act, you're not necessarily tied to our world, but Hollywood Undead have always seemed to really enjoy being part of metal culture and being part of alternative culture, and that being in the fabric of what Hollywood Undead is. Is that a fair take?
It's a very fair assessment. I think, like, you know, there's a few metalheads in our band that are like, you know, that listen to that's their music of choice first and foremost. And then there's a few guys in the band, you know, growing up in LA, especially, hip hop's such a big part of culture that you grow up where, you know, that's really prevalent. And, you know, when we started writing music, the first band we started was a straight up rock band, you know, like anybody else. It was kind of like Deftones, a horrible version of the Deftones, let's say, without Chino in it. So it was like, you know, it sucked. But we were kids, and like that was kind of where we were going with it. And we kind of did band after band. We'd break up, someone would leave, someone would join. It was always the same circle of guys in these bands. And then, you know, it never worked out. And we did showcases. We did the whole thing that everybody did at that time to try and get some attention, to play shows. And, you know, we were playing to nobody except our friends, family, whatever. We did that forever. And eventually, I think I kind of just got desensitized to the whole idea of doing it. I was like, dude, this sucks. Like, no one cares. So we started Hollywood Undead because we still wanted to write music, but we had let go of the idea of it being anything more than our own thing, which is very odd because when we let go of all those expectations is when we actually found success. So Hollywood Undead, it's an amalgamation of all these things we like, but if we were, it's the oddity of the whole thing. If we were going in with the intention of, hey, we want to get a record deal, we want to tour, we wouldn't have started Hollywood Undead. We did it strictly for the other reason. So that's why Hollywood Undead kind of was different. It was wacky because we started writing Hollywood Undead music, and all of a sudden we had like all the major labels like knocking down our door. And I was like, this is so weird because I worked for this for years and got like nowhere. And I mean nowhere. And then you just say, fuck it and do what you want. And all of a sudden people are like, hey, we really like this. Honestly, it's one of those things that when I think back on, especially at the time, because, you know, we were so young, it still confuses me how it all worked out like that. So I think we were very, very fortunate that we didn't go so far down the rabbit hole trying to do what everybody else was doing. And we were able to go, you know what, if music doesn't work out, let's just write some music that we want to write. And that's what Hollywood Undead was.
Do you still feel different to everyone else in 2020?
I mean, no, like, you know, I still listen to like a lot of like mainstream music. I love, like, you brought up Zoltan. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, you know, that's not metal. That's that. I'm the same way with movies. I'm not a music critic. I'm not a movie critic. If something feels good to listen to, I don't give a shit who likes it or who doesn't. I mean, a lot of people will tell you their favorite movie, something like Apocalypse Now or something super. My favorite movie is still Dumb and Dumber. It's like, you know, if I enjoy something, I don't care what the rules are behind. See, you know, and it's funny. People get involved in like music scenes, and it's stupid because what you do is you eliminate all this other music that you might love, but it's not what you listen to. So it's like, dude, I'll listen to classic Mozart, I'll listen to Five Finger Death Punch, and then I'll listen to Eazy-E, and it's all in the same day, and I love it all, and I appreciate it all. I don't live in the confines of like, hey, this is what you're supposed to like. So with all that, you know, Hollywood Undead's dealt with that forever because, oh, this isn't that, so I won't listen to it. These guys wear masks or whatever. You know, every stigma that I guess was tied to it was, you know, a lot of people didn't like it. So my attitude's always been, if I enjoy listening to something, I'll listen to it regardless of whatever rules people apply to listening to music. It's so silly, man. It's just so dumb.
Agreed. So New Music Volume 1 would suggest that there's a New Music Volume 2. Is that the case? And whenabouts can we kind of expect this?
Well, we actually just dropped the first song from Volume 2 last Friday called Idol.
Ah,
yeah.
I've seen the song, but there was no official message that it's part of Volume 2. So that's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, so what we're gonna do is, you know, like this whole COVID thing. That's one thing that changed. Is typically you just do a drop and go tour. No one can tour, so they're like, you know, they want in retailers aren't picking up. The whole world is kind of fucking topsy-turvy. So we're like, let's just put out some tunes. I don't care. I don't care about how it's released. So we put out Idol. That's a song with our friend Tech9. He's a rapper dude. Some people know him, some people don't, but he's badass. And we're just kind of release songs, and then at the end maybe we'll do like a full release of the whole thing, as like, because some people still like to have physical copies even though it's rare. But as of now, dude, no one really knows what's going on with the music industry, so we're just kind of winging it and just doing whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we're all kind of in the same boat. It was a good week for Tech9 last week, being on Idol and being on the Corey Taylor single.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even find that out until after we were done with Idol. I was like, this two-timing son of a bitch, bro. He's having a threesome and I didn't even know.
Coming up the rear in more ways than one, mate. So you've got
dude, Tech9. That motherfucker's brilliant, dude. Like that guy is the hardest working musician I've ever met. There's never a day that guy isn't doing something. He doesn't take breaks. So I wasn't really surprised. The same week our song with him and Corey Taylor came out with him, and I was like, huh, okay. I see how it is.
So of course, it's Tech9's on the record. You got any other special guests lined up?
Yeah, there's a song we did with this guy, Kill Station, that I'm like,
oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I love Kill Station. Yeah. So we got a song with him on there. And then there's somebody else, but I think I'm not supposed to say it, so I'll just keep it just in case, because I don't want to get a text after this. Oh, you fucking idiot.
All right. Well, at least we can assume there's some. Do you consider New Empire Volume 1 and 2, do you consider it one thing in the kind of the same way that Kill Bill is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the same story, but the thing was, so we wrote a lot of really heavy material to start the record. And then, like, you know, we started writing a bunch of different kind of stuff towards the end. And they really did. It was two processes. We recorded a bunch of songs, took a break. It was like the holidays, I think. It was like Christmas or some shit. And we all went home. And when we came back in, the vibe had kind of changed. So we recorded a bunch of different songs. And we were like, dude, this doesn't like make sense to like for the same thing. And in this world, you know, my whole thing is like before I kind of feel weird putting out 2 CDs because I feel like you're trying to gouge people, like, hey, you got to buy both. And I wouldn't do that. But in this modern day where 90% of music is streamed, it's like, why don't we just release 2 separate releases, and then we're not like trying to rip anybody off? Like, because I remember that when people would put out double records, I was like, this motherfucker could have fit all that on one disc. He's just trying to fucking get more money. So once, you know, in this today's society, the way music is consumed, you don't have to worry about it. So we're like, fuck it, let's just put them out separately, because it was different time periods. So the vibe was a little different. The mood was a little different. And it just sounded weird when we played it all together. It like didn't make sense. So that's why we separated it. And there's definitely different elements to both. They're still the same record. I think it's still kind of part of the same story, but they were kind of told differently. And when we played it all together, it was just like, dude, this just doesn't, it didn't flow right. You know, it sounded like it was missing something, or there was too much there, actually. The opposite. It was overloaded.
Well, I look forward to hearing Volume 2, and to be honest with you, it's kind of worked out best that there's 2 separate discs, because we're all fucking dying for entertainment at the minute, man. Like, no movies, like at least albums have still been coming, so it's kind of worked out nicely.
Yeah, that's when I go to Pornhub, dude. They got plenty of content.
Johnny, thank you so much for joining us today, man. Come back and talk to us when the record comes out again.
My pleasure. Anytime, bro. It's been my pleasure.
Don't forget to like and share this video, and join me on Twitch every Tuesday, Friday and Saturday for guest hangouts, new music votes, tier lists, band-specific competitions, weekly merch roundups, and much, much more. That's twitch.tv/Mosh Talks. Find the link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you on KNOTFEST.com for all of the latest news, features, and much more from the worlds of rock, metal, and beyond.